This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 46. Negotiation. We continue on the buy side here. Doesn't everybody have to win in the end? Are you a home seller or a home buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property, but you just can't find an easy way to get the answers? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future, you can take advantage of our free step-by-step guides waiting for you at griffincourses.com. All right, let's get started here. The question on the table in this section on negotiation on the buy side, doesn't everybody have to win in the end? And, a lot of times in real estate, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a battle. Well, the seller's thinking this, and they must be doing that. And then, when you're on the sell side, it's the same thing. Well, that's insulting, and just gets very emotional. So it seems like it might be one of the most difficult things to feel a win-win situation, but let me make a few points here. The first one of which is a signed contract signifies that the buyer and the seller have agreed on price and terms. So clearly, until everybody's signature's there, yes, it is harrowing, it's emotional, it's aggravating, it's angering. I mean, all those things can happen during a negotiation phase. But when that signed contract finally happens, it signifies, quote unquote, a meeting of the minds. So all the price back and forth and the terms and the timing and what you're asking for. I'm not saying that post a home inspection, there might not be some renegotiation or something goes awry. I get it that there are other factors that have to happen during the closing process, which we'll cover. But the truth is, you both won. You're in an agreement now. And now we can move through the real details of the transaction. So that leads to the second point here. A perfect negotiation for both sides is nearly impossible, so leave the hard feelings behind. It's just shocking to me, and especially when there's been a fabulous property purchased at the right price. It's stunning to me that even at the very last moment, the littlest of things, and I can think of two very clear deals within the last 2 months that I did at very high-end prices, where some little tiny thing was left behind or wasn't left behind in the other case, and people got really ornery, really upset. And the truth is, it was just as easy for me, having had the pleasure to serve these people, to buy the thing that was missing or to hunt it down. But you could just see where the process had really drained people and had angered people. And, I think it merits talking about this fear of being taken advantage of. When we get involved in very large financial and emotional transactions, I think one of the greatest fears, and I think it's one of the greatest fears in life, is the fear of being taken advantage of. And that can even be you taking advantage of yourself. Did you rush headlong in as the buyer to this negotiation and you got all emotional and now you feel like you overpaid? We know that is buyer's regret. There's seller's regret. There's deal regret, right? So that might be a very real part of this, but I always love the concept of zero-based thinking. Calm yourself down during and after the negotiation once you're under agreement, and remember why you're in this process to begin with. You are buying a property for a reason, and presumably a pretty big reason. This is why when we first start dealing with buyers or sellers, we say, why? Why do you want to do this? We don't just get excited that we see cha-ching, another deal in front of us. That's not the right way to help people. We almost make them take a moment to ask themselves, do you have a big enough why you want to do this? Because it is a big financial, it is a big emotional transaction you're about to go through. And we know as guides, it's not easy. It's sort of like looking at Mount Everest and having gone up and down it many times with people. We know that there's some storms are coming during that journey. So we know that for you too. So the idea is remember always why you're doing it so that when you feel your emotions getting out of control, especially during the negotiation, you can come back to zero-based thinking and say to yourself, logically, how am I doing here? Did I really do anything ridiculously out of bounds? And did I take advantage of myself? Most likely the answer is no, especially if you have a good guide, somebody that's having that dialogue with you about the value of the lifestyle, not just the product, and the evaluation of the price you're about to pay, the current status of the market. Those are all things that can be discussed along the way to really help you be, less emotional about it. So I think that's really important. All right. Finally, the last point here is the best news is that you have beat out all the other potential buyers for the property that you want. The seller has awarded you the victory. Think about that. So even if it's been a tough negotiation, the seller has finally said, you win. So they're granting you the victory because they're really the ones that are ultimately in control. It's their property, and a lot of them, it's their home that they're giving up, and they're emotional, and they decide for a lot of reasons, not always just money, that you're the winner. And so you think about it that way, that you have beaten all these other people out. This is now going to be your property, and you're going through the process. Don't begrudge the seller. Why? What does that have to do? It's almost like we need an extra therapy session outside of the actual negotiation if we're still angry and ornery and white-knuckled about the whole process. You won. You won. This is it. And again, like I said, I would always recommend that everybody think about the real reason you're buying. And for the most part, it's usually a longer term horizon. I get it that some people come into an area on a business contract and they want to own, they have an aversion to renting. You want to make sure you really get the best price. You want to make sure it's rentable at that price. So there are things to think about. But for the most part, most people stay in a house around 7 years. So it's not like it's this whimsical thing we're running in and out of, barring a real problem. So you won, and you're about to live there. This is about to be your home. Enjoy it, because the way that you start, the feelings that you have about landing that property are going to matter to you for the next X number of years, and it could be a long time. So don't begrudge the seller. They're the ones that allow you to win with them, so they could move on and you could move in. All right, let me go back and summarize this. And again, just to remind you, this is a segment from the buyer plan that we coach our buyers through and against, and this is the negotiation stage. So you are deep into the buying process when you're in the negotiation stage. And really, this is more the psychological side to everything. And the question on the table is, doesn't everybody have to win in the end? It's more of a rhetorical question from me to you so that you think about it. And the points were and are. A signed contract simply signifies that the buyer and seller have agreed on price and terms in a win-win way. Second point is, a perfect negotiation for both sides is nearly impossible, so leave all the hard feelings behind. You ground it out. Everybody wanted to win. It was it's sort of like the gentleman's or the gentle lady's handshake at the end of some sort of a highbrow event. Bravo, good fight. We both agreed, we both won. Okay. And lastly, the best news is that you have beaten out all the other potential buyers for the property you want. So you as the buyer, you definitely won. Now you're in the catbird seat. Let me summarize it this way. Although there is no such thing as a perfect negotiation, it is a fact that once a contract has been signed, in essence, both the buyer and the seller have entered into a win-win scenario. For the buyer, it's best to focus on the victory of getting the seller to have chosen you as the winner. All right, now remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future by getting our free step-by-step plans that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can find us on any of our social media channels because we post them all over there, and you won't miss out on the episodes each time if you follow us over there. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would comment and share our content with anyone thinking about selling or buying property so they get the help that they need to be successful in this process. But remember, nobody's coming for you, so take action and get to work on your own plan for buying or selling property, and we'll see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks so much for listening.